Victor Lundy is an American architect who has enjoyed an exceptional career. One of the leaders of the so-called Saratoga School of Architecture, he designed many buildings that are still revered for their innovation and exemplary modernistic architectural elements. His warm Mineral Springs Motel in Florida is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. His unique tax court building in Washington, D.C. is striking and bold and was honored by the Smithsonian in 2013. Before he became an architect, Lundy was a soldier who fought in World War II, and during his time abroad, he created hundreds of evocative sketches of life at war. Born in New York City, Lundy began drawing as a child and eventually attended New York University to study architecture. He would later graduate from Harvard and move to Sarasota, Florida to begin his career. Excited about his opportunity to help rebuild Europe after the war, he enlisted in the Army Special Training Program, ASTP, in 1942 at the age of 19, but he quickly found himself thrown into the infantry. Serving as a soldier in the U.S. 26th Infantry Division, Lundy essentially sketched his way through the war. He drew whatever was around him, which included men at rest, casualties, forced marches, and French villages. When a surgeon noticed his sketches while Lundy was being treated for war wounds, Lundy was asked to sketch a new medical procedure that the surgeon was developing. This assignment allowed Lundy to miss 8 months on the front lines that proved dangerous for the other soldiers involved. It may have saved his life. During his experience at war, Lundy filled up more than 24 small spiral-bound sketchbooks, 3 inches by 5 inches in size, with drawings. 8 of those sketchbooks have survived. He donated them to the Library of Congress in 2009. The sketchbooks contained a total of 158 pencil drawings. Take a look at some of them below to get a unique glimpse into a soldier's life during World War II.
If you have heard of the extraordinary WW2 sketchbook of Victor Lundy, then you must be interested in delving into the past and experiencing history through the eyes of a young soldier. Do you remember a time when the world was at war, and young men and women left their homes to fight for their country? The photos we are about to see reflect a period of past history, a time when the world was in turmoil, and brave soldiers fought for freedom. In 1942, Victor Alfred Lundy, a young architecture student from New York, enlisted in the Army Specialized Training Program (ASTP) during World War II. This program aimed to identify and train academically talented enlisted men as specialized officers for the Army. Lundy, with his passion for sketching, recorded his time in the U.S. 26th Infantry Division through a series of remarkable sketches. These sketches document his journey from training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to his frontline duty before being wounded in combat in late 1944. The sketches in Lundy's World War II sketchbook offer a unique and personal insight into the life of a soldier during this tumultuous time in history. They capture the camaraderie, the fear, and the resilience of the men who fought in the war. Lundy's sketches not only showcase his artistic talent but also serve as a historical record of the experiences of the soldiers who served in the U.S. 26th Infantry Division. Lundy once said, "For me, drawing is sort of synonymous with thinking." His words reflect the deep connection he felt between his art and his experiences as a soldier. Through his sketches, we can see the world through his eyes, and we can understand the impact that the war had on him and his fellow soldiers. As we journey through these photos, we are transported back to a time when the world was at war, and young men and women sacrificed their lives for the greater good. The sketches in Lundy's World War II sketchbook offer us a window into the past, allowing us to witness the courage and the struggles of the soldiers who fought for our freedom. The most exciting part is still ahead, so let's immerse ourselves in the images and reminisce about that era. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sacrifices made by those who came before us and to honor their memory through these extraordinary sketches.
Lundy's college days ended in 1942 when he enlisted to fight in the Second World War. After months of training, he was placed in the 26th Infantry Division of Patton's Third Army.
There was the infantry, out of the blue, with this New York background. I'll never forget arriving in Columbia, South Carolina, and loaded into trucks off the train.
In the fall of 1944, Lundy was sent to fight in France, but not even war stopped him from drawing. While on duty, he captured his experiences in sketchbooks small enough to fit in the pocket of his uniform.
Sometimes with a full field pack, I would make sketches as I walked, and I had a kind of a wonderful record. There were 27 sketchbooks, and only 8 have survived.
That November, tragedy struck his battalion when German tanks surrounded them in a French village. Hundreds were killed, and Lundy nearly lost his left arm.
I was wounded on November 12th, 1944, and that was just before and during the big buildup of German troops for the Battle of the Bulge. And I think those of us who were in the front lines knew something was up, because you could hear this tremendous roar, you know, tanks were out there. Something was happening. As it got dark, right at that time, here come the tanks shooting up the town, and everything was on fire. And I remember the house we were in suddenly got on fire, so our squad, I got them to go to the neighboring building, and I remember there was some steps down to the cellar, and I said, down, quick, you know, and so I was at the cast iron door, and as I turned to look up, across the street, here comes this big Tiger tank. What I should have done was quickly jump to the side, and I remember taking the cast iron door and slamming it shut. And then as I turned this way, the projectile went through the door, and I lost my left arm.
After being wounded, Lundy was transported to an English hospital.
I was very lucky that the doctor in charge turned out to be a famous orthopedic surgeon from Chicago, Hamper Kilikian. He was Armenian and a total genius orthopedic surgeon who took care of ballet stars in Chicago and baseball players and all this stuff. And I remember I had, which I've numbered sketchbook number 8 in my tunic here, and he lifted it out and he said, "Oh, Sonny boy, I've been looking for someone who can draw." And I must say, he's the one who kind of repaired me, but he also used me. I did drawings in the operating room, and in a way, he probably saved my life, because he kept me, he didn't want me fixed up there. He made sure that I got transferred to Walter Reed Hospital.
Lundy spent nearly a year recovering from his wounds at Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. For wounds he sustained in action, Victor Lundy was awarded the Purple Heart.
I came back from the war a different person, no doubt about it.
Lundy's wartime experiences changed the direction of his career when he encountered a captured German soldier.
I remember my, buddy saying, "Hey, Victor, you ought to talk to this guy. There's a Nazi architect back there." And I met him, and he was a really kind of a neat, aristocratic guy with impeccable English. And I got in trouble because we just hit it off, and he's the one who told me that Gropius was at Harvard, Mies was in Chicago. I learned about that.
Walter Gropius, the founder of the Bauhaus, had left Nazi Germany in 1934 for England. He moved to the United States a few years later to teach at Harvard University's Graduate School of Design. On the advice of the German officer he had met, Lundy enrolled in the Harvard program in 1945, a week after the war had ended.
And then I remember going to Harvard to meet Gropius, and I had my uniform on and my combat infantry badge and the Rhineland campaign ribbons, all this stuff. And when I met Gropius, I remember the hair on the back of my neck got erect. He looked exactly like the German officers I'd been fighting in France.
At Harvard, Lundy learned a new way of designing based on the principles of European modernism. He was encouraged to reject historical traditions and reduce a building to its essence, much like the abstract art of the post-war age.
Harvard became the epicenter of modernism. And Gropius came in and said, we get rid of all of this kind of Beaux-Arts history. We paint everything white. We make, it just became, try to start fresh, let's say.
After earning a bachelor's degree from Harvard in 1947 and a master's degree in 1948, Lundy toured Europe on a Roach traveling scholarship from the Boston Society of Architects.
The Roach trip was the defining moment in my life. There I was with the opportunity to pick and choose and experience the great spaces and buildings of the world.